All right guys, so we're gonna be switching up a little bit for today's content. Now here's the premise, all right? I've explained to you guys how with Drift HQ we are going to be doing a side rental business, Drift HQ Rentals, where we are going to rent turnkey drift cars. Now, before we release more information about the service, what I wanted to do is take the 3 cars that we currently have right now, look over them, drive them to determine whatever they need to be up to par, both aesthetically or performance or safety for me to feel comfortable with other people renting them out. So the first car that we're gonna do it with is a 3.8 liter V6 Genesis. I don't really know much about these cars. I will say if you are an OG automotive YouTube fan like myself, it's a very special car and it's had some history in the world of drifting and it's pretty freaking cool that we own it now. But this car, it is the V6, it's fully caged, and I don't know a lot about these cars, but I did a little quick research and it seems like the power graph, the dyno graph, the torque is extremely similar to a 350Z. So I'm assuming it should feel similar. The weight's right around 3,300 pounds, which is the same as a Z. Makes like 270, 260 wheel, which is like the same as a Z. Makes a little more torque up in the higher RPM range, so it should feel a little more exciting. But aesthetically, it's a drift car. It's not perfect. I think the Bitcoin millionaire painted this thing a couple times, but she looks pretty good. Super quick spec list that I have right here. It has FDF dual caliper kit. It's got a Sickie handbrake, welded diff, ISR rear arms, PBM angle kit in the front, FIA bucket seats, and a set of my favorite BC BR coilovers. So my plan, the premise, I'm gonna hop in the car, go take it for a couple laps around the compound. I haven't driven any of these cars, so I'll let you guys know kind of my feedback and initial impressions of the car. And on my own, I'm taking notes of little stuff that I wanna change. An example of that, nothing really insanely crazy, but personally, if someone were to rent this car, just little things like mounting stuff a little bit better, cleaning up a couple little interior things, just making it so it's really an experience. And I'll kind of go over a little bit more of the details of the rental stuff. It's still not going to be out to the public for a few weeks, but I'll explain it more throughout the video. Start this puppy up. This thing actually sounds surprisingly good. I gotta say, this is one of the cars that I've never driven before on a track that looks like it should be really good, sounds good. I feel like it should be a good time, but I don't have any personal experience. So I've actually been really looking forward to driving this thing for the first time. You know, if this is a 5 or 6 speed, sick. 6 gears of fun. Sounds better than a Z. Sorry, pal. Big Genesis guy. Seats feel real good. First impressions. A little weird throttle response down low. Feels like it's an electric throttle body, as with a lot of new cars. All right, she's got some spice. We'll warm the tires up. It's got a very moderate alignment in it right now, as well as tire setup, just because the fact it did just rain. Got puddles everywhere, so I'm gonna play it safe and just do some of the little stuff. All right, and we'll warm the tires up. Feels like it's got a good front grip balance. All right, let's see how it shifts in drift. Not bad. Very intuitive. Pretty easy to hit limiter. The gearing is kind of short. Definitely be a skid pad hero though. I think that's my biggest complaint compared to the Z, is just how much shorter the limiter is. God, this thing's got a lot of angle. It's hard to spin out. Woo! I approve. Probably one of the easiest cars I've ever hopped in and drove. I'd say my biggest critique is probably just the second gear's a little short for my preference. I could try going a third, but now I understand why you know, one of the previous owners was known to ride limiter a lot on this car. This thing's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed. How's it look?
It looks like it rips.
It throws really big angle.
Yeah.
Like, and it drives really well with big angle. Can you go to that corner where I almost hit Marco by the tree? I'm gonna throw a big angle there and make it look cool.
Sure, love that.
I wonder how it'll feel in third. I think it'll work. Let's give it a shot. I remember when I first started drifting, I made a whole video just dedicated to the fact that I did my first drifts in third gear. Now I'm just like, oh, that's cute. Let's see if this thing will do it. It does. Yeah, hangs in third fine. Just missed the gear a little bit, but this thing's a blast. All right, car number one, success. I got my data, I got a few things I want to change with it, dialed in a little bit more, but this thing feels great right off the rip. I gotta say, I did not expect to have that much fun driving the Genesis. So the Genesis and this G35 right here, which is car number 2, are going to be 2 of our entry-level drift rental cars. So pricing and the structure of pricing isn't exactly set in stone, but both this car and the other car will be roughly about $500, and that includes delivery to our local track, OSW, us mounting tires, then you're responsible for tires and fuel. This car, nothing out of the ordinary for me. I've driven plenty of Zs. This one is a DE. A lot of debate about which is better for drifting. I obviously have an HR on my Z because I was told to do it when I first got my Z. However, I will say sometimes driving DE cars, I find it a bit easier because they have more torque than the HR does, where the HR makes more power and revs out a little bit higher. Pretty simple car, has an FDF angle kit, Raceland coils, NRG seats. It's got a Drift HQ hydro, it's got Drift HQ rear arms, and then it has a FDF dual caliper kit. Aesthetically, it's not that bad. It needs a door handle. I'm sure I'll have a couple little notes driving it, but I just want to take it out and go rip it around like I did on the Genesis, just so I can get it to the point where it's got my seal of approval. All right, guys, so car number 2, about to take her out. Beautiful G35. Well, the diff, simple seat time car. Let's see if she shreds the compound. I always like to try to understeer in cars first because it kind of gives me a good idea of how much the car is going to drive around the front. If it pushes like this, that's good. That means I can almost do a backy and the front will just slip. But if it drives around the front, that usually means that there's not enough grip in the rear or too much in the front, and it's going to do weird stuff. Ooh, wow. Got to pull the handbrake pretty hard to get it to lock up. I'm going to make a quick adjustment on the fly real quick. Extend it out a little bit. Got spoiled with old Jenny. My elbows didn't go far enough back. Round 2, let's see what you got on. Pull it a little bit harder. Big angle. Necessary than the Jenny. Woo! It's fun though. Woo! Don't know if this thing is going to the line. I think it'll be fun regardless. Careful with the water. I think this thing has a lot of grip in it right now. What tires did you say you put on the rear?
I put the GT radials from Pro 2, just the set we had from Schlegel's car.
Well, that would explain it.
It's grippy, ain't it?
It feels like an FD car.
Yeah, she bites.
I'm like, I've never had to clutch kick a Z so much in my life.
Yeah,
You want us to bump you up?
What are they at now?
Probably like 18
Yeah,
PSI.
they're probably like they're probably like 24. That's what Schlegel's
Bump
running.
you to like 35?
I would go to like 80.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feels like an FD car.
All right, that explains a lot. All right, so I was wondering why this thing felt like it had a frick ton of grip. It turned out it had Schlegel's Pro 2 takeoff. So I had them air them up from 18 PSI to 80 PSI. All right, so this amount of grip works well for like small skid pad stuff, but trying to do man line at the compound, I do think it's a little bit too much, but it feels great for little stuff like this. Watch out for the water! Good time. Surprise! We didn't tell you guys about this, but a few weeks back, Duarte actually worked out a deal with Freddie. Believe it or not, Drift HQ actually built this car. This is an E46 M3. Freddie kind of balled out and did all the bells and whistles. It's got an SLR angle kit, Chelsea's ER spec BC coilovers. It's got some nice Titan 7 wheels. It's got some NRG seats, IRP handbrake. It's got a SLG dual caliper kit. But best of all, if you guys remember this from a video a while back, it still has the carbon CSL box, tuned by RK Tunes. It's also got an LSD diff. This car obviously is a bit more of an expensive car than the other two cars we drove, which by the way, I feel like the G didn't really get a fair chance, being that it had about as much grip as my S15, but still felt great. Little things to dial in, but overall that thing's pretty good. This thing though, you can expect it to be about 2 times the cost of those other two cars that we talked about briefly. And I've driven this thing before and it drives really well. It sounds sick. However, I was asked to kind of baby it. Now, since we technically own the car, I don't need to baby it. So I'm doing man line with this puppy. I'm gonna see what this angle kit's got. I don't think E46 M3s make that much power. I think, off the top of my head, I feel like it makes a little over 300 wheel, or maybe right around 300. The thing is, they don't make a lot of torque. It's a very linear power band, so you really get to drive the hell out of them. But it's like the most rewarding, fun thing ever. It's like the European version of driving an old A86 without the, I would say without the insane price tag, but E46 M3s are getting so expensive. It's an experience, and I'm excited to rip this thing around here. All right, we got a little bit of rain coming in, so for this one, might be a little bit slick. But honestly, you know, I feel like you're paying extra for with this thing, more so than the fact it's E46 M3. You got ice cold AC while you're waiting in grid. Huge benefit, especially if you got a girlfriend with you. You never know. They don't like not having AC. Doors open. All right, let's see how this thing feels. It's full send right away. Oh, I forgot to mention, it's got a new diff from when I last drove it. Hey, E46 M3 tripping me up. Feels like the car could use a little bit more tow. Handbrake locks up nicely. Good amount of power. Great angle. Let's test those windshield wipers. Alright, let's see how she tackles a man line. God, this thing rips up top. It shreds! Oh, there's a golf cart there. It's funny, when you hit the rain, this thing just rockets. It feels like I could use a little bit more self-steer on the angle side. Power feels great, and the gearing feels a lot better than it did before. Sounds amazing. A couple minor tweaks, and I think this thing will be a really, really good drift car. Oh, I'm probably losing some horsepower because I got the air on. All right, let's try it now. Probably gonna be that much faster. My big angle. Ooh, that felt good. Careful of the wet spot. This thing's fun. I think power-wise and sound-wise, this is one of my favorite cars of the three that I've driven today. However, I think like in terms of angle kit and steering feel, the Genesis definitely has my pick. That car just blew my mind with how good it felt. It just felt very like natural, and then at big angle, it kind of like wise fab crabbed it out a little bit. Felt really good. This thing, I've driven plenty of SLR cars that don't feel like this. It just feels like it needs a little bit more caster or just a little bit more self-steer somehow. Feels good on the tight stuff. This is going to be a 6 skid pad car. Man, this car is fun. Handled the tight stuff really well. Oh, kid truck. we parked the cars to block so people can go in or out, and then I forget that they're there. Like an idiot. That's what I call a Friday. This thing's sick. That was a lot of fun to sling this thing around. I've always wanted to build an E46 M3 drift car, but I didn't really have a purpose for it. So the fact that Drift HQ has one as a rental and I can, you know, test it and make sure it's good a few times here and there, that was pretty rad. A bit of a change of pace from the normal content. It was something that was on my to-do list anyway, because I want to be able to start dialing in these cars so we can bring them to the track. I'll put more information in the description. We've got a site, we've got an email you can reach out to if you want to be put on a newsletter or whatever once more information's out. But I'm excited. There's been plenty of times when I've been in another place or been traveling and I would have loved to rent someone's car, or I have rented someone's car, as you guys know. And I'm hoping for a lot of you guys that come over from other countries, other states, or on vacation might be able to get out to OSW, throw some laps together in one of these cars. So I got my lists, and hope you guys enjoyed me figuring these cars out. It's been a fun one.
GT radials from Pro 2, just a set we had from Schlegel's car.
Well, that would explain it.
It's grippy, ain't it?
It feels like an FD car.
Yeah, she bites.
I'm like, I've never had to clutch kick a Z so much in my life.